Hello and welcome to part 2 of the Chicago Energy Benchmarking Training. My name is Katie Klusny with USGBC Illinois and a partner with the Chicago Energy Benchmarking Working Group. And during part 2 of this webinar and training, we will cover how to create a building profile, how to add a Chicago Energy Benchmarking ID, how to obtain whole building energy data, how to enter that utility data, how to get the data verified if that is required for you this year, and how to report the data to the city. We'll follow a step-by-step instructions, which is similar to what you can find in the compliance guide found at cityofchicago.org/energybenchmarking. To get started with your Portfolio Manager account, you'll go to portfoliomanager.energystar.gov. You'll see a screen that looks like this. There are a lot of great Portfolio Manager resources that you can see over on the left-hand side of the screen, which are surrounded by the red bracket that can help you along the way. And also, you can start creating your account over on the right-hand side of the screen where there's a red circle around Register Now. If you already have a Portfolio Manager account, you can also just click Log In with your username and password. Once you register and then log in with your username and password that you create, you'll come to the next screen, which looks like Create an Account. You will make up this username and password. You can tell a little bit more about yourself. This Portfolio Manager account is a personal profile. This is not setting up your building. So this is connected to you and how you will log in to view your buildings in the future. So it just has some basic information about yourself. Once you are finished with that, you'll see a main screen that looks like it has a few tabs at the top. You'll be in the My Portfolio tab, and you'll want to get started by selecting Add a Property. We're going to walk through the steps to add a property. Once you click the Add a Property button, you'll see a series of questions, kind of like a wizard that's setting up your property. You'll first select your primary function of your property. You'll be taken through a wizard after this. You can select that primary function, which is more than 80 property types. So find the property in the drop-down list that most reflects the primary use of your property. There are some properties that can earn a 1 to 100 score in Energy Star, but as we noted in the first segment, a benchmarking value for all properties is available regardless of eligibility to earn the 1 to 100 score. After you enter your primary use type, you'll have some opportunity later on if you have secondary use types of your building to add those in. You'll also want to select if your building is a single building or is part of a building, or if it's part of a campus, like multiple buildings. Most buildings are going to select my building as a single building. And then you'll look at the third question on the page to select that your building is existing, and then click Get Started. There's also an opportunity on this page to select Test Property if you wanted to just play around and put a fake building in and just see what it looks like and get a feel for it before you go back and do existing building and set up your actual account. So once you get to the next page, you're going to enter some basic property information. You're going to enter the name of the building, something that is going to be reflective of the building, not only to you, but to anyone that might be looking at this property. And then put in the street address, the city, municipality, the state, postal code, the year built, the gross floor area, and you'll notice that this gross floor area should not include parking. For the purpose of Portfolio Manager, they will ask you some questions about parking square footage later on. And then you can select if there is a portion of your building that's irrigated, and then the closest percentage of occupancy. All of these fields with a red asterisk are required to move on to the next step. When you get to near the bottom of the page, they'll also ask some questions such as the ones in the box at the top of the slide. Do any of these apply? And so you would check the box if any of these apply to your property. That just helps Portfolio Manager prompt you with further questions down the road that will ask you some more information. For example, if you click that your property includes parking areas, you'll want to think about there is probably some electricity attached to those parking areas, such as lighting and other items. So if you select parking, you'll see the example below. It'll ask you for an open parking lot size, if it's a partially enclosed parking lot size, or completely enclosed parking lot size. And if it's all completely open, you'll put the full square footage of that lot size there, and then you'll have to enter 0 in the other 2 boxes. As you'll see, there's an asterisk for all 3, so it won't let you move forward unless you enter a value in each box. Next, you'll enter your property use details based on the primary use type that you selected on that very first screen. So for example, if you selected that your building was a commercial office building, these are the questions that you will answer next. If you hover over any of the blue text and links, you can see a definition, or you can click those links to take you to further information to understand what they're asking. For example, gross floor area, weekly operating hours, number of workers on the main shift, number of computers, percent that can be heated, percent that can be cooled. Any of those have a further definition of what they're looking for as a value there if you click or hover over those links. Once you fill out those values, you can click Add a Property. But this is also an example if your building is residential. So you'll notice that it's going to ask different questions. So if you have a multifamily property and that's what you selected as your primary use type, you will see these questions instead of the office questions. And these have some different values, such as total number of residential living units, the number of living units that are in a 1 to 4 story setting, 3 to 9, and 10 and above. And then you're going to want to put a value in each of these boxes. So if your building is 10 stories or higher, then all of your number of residential living units will go in the 10 or more stories box, and you will put 0 in the 1 to 4 and the 5 to 9. It does not want you to break out how many units are in each level of the building. They're just looking for how tall your building is and where the number of units are. If you have multiple towers within your residential unit, then that's when you may have a number of units in different levels of the building. You'll enter number of bedrooms, which is different than number of residential living units. So for example, if you have studio apartments, 1-bedroom apartments, those will all count as 1 bedroom. If you have a number of buildings or number of units that have 2 or more bedrooms, you're just counting up the total number of bedrooms and including that value in the box there. After you finish selecting all of this information, you will go to a next page. There are some values that are required by the ordinance that are indicated here at the box. And this is when you have an opportunity to add another use type. So for example, if you have a mixed-use building that is partially commercial office and partially residential, or partially retail and partially office, you'll have already added your primary use type, which is the most square footage, and then you'll add a secondary use type and add the gross floor area for that portion of the use type. And so, for example, this is looking at adding multifamily as a secondary property type. Whatever you do, you want to make sure that the values you add for gross floor area for the primary use type and any secondary use types all add up to the same total square footage that you entered when you set up your building profile at the start. If those values, when they add together, do not match, you'll get an error, and we'll have to go back and fix that. After you finish setting up your main property information, you'll come back to a summary tab, and it'll tell you it's now time to add some energy information. You'll see the summary tab is part of this My Portfolio tab. You'll notice there's several more. You can see details, energy, water, waste and materials, goals, and design. We're just going to use the energy tab for this, for the benchmarking ordinance for the City of Chicago. However, if you're interested in tracking water or waste for your building as well, Portfolio Manager has tools now to do both of those, and so you can do all of that here. However, only the energy information will be submitted to the city with the ordinance. If after the Summary tab, you can click on the Details tab, and you will see partway down the page a box that says Unique Identifiers. And this is important. We'll want to add your Chicago Energy Benchmarking ID here. So you'll see most likely that under Standard IDs, you'll see that none is listed next to it. So you're going to want to click the Edit button to add your Chicago Energy Benchmarking ID. And again, you'll find the Chicago Energy Benchmarking ID on your letter of notification, your notification email, or you can find it in the covered buildings list. If for some reason you've misplaced that and cannot find it, there's a web form that you can enter on the cityofchicago.org/energy benchmarking website and request that 6-digit ID again. Once you click Edit on that Unique Identifiers, you'll see a drop-down box where you can select Chicago Energy Benchmarking ID, and then you'll enter the 6-digit number in the box to the right, and then click Save. Once you click Save, you're going to want to move on to the Energy tab, and this is where you're going to add your meters, your utility meters for the building. We're going to show you how to add the meters first, and then show you how to do the aggregated data collection from the utilities after we show this meter function. So once you click Add a Meter, you can select your different fuel types. You're going to want to set up at least one meter for any fuel type that you have. Most buildings will have electric and natural gas. Some might have fuel oil or others. You'll want to click each box based on the type of utilities you have at your property. There's a little box over to the right that shows what happens when you click electric and natural gas. You can then, it'll have a different drop-down box to show how many meters you have. So for example, if you have 2 meters at your building and you're going to enter your information from bills that you have access to for both meters, you can set them up individually and select 2 meters for electric. If you're going to get aggregated data for your whole building through ComEd's energy usage data system, and same for natural gas, if you're going to get aggregated data, you'll just want to select 1 meter for both electric and for gas, and we'll add that whole building data into just 1 meter. Once you select the next page, you'll see your natural gas and your electric meter here, and then you want to make sure you're entering the units correctly, or it'll give you a bunch of red text, as you see on the screen, reminding you of what you need to do here. So you'll click the type of units for natural gas, which most will be CCS for therms, and then for your electric, it'll probably be kWh for kilowatt hours. And then you want to also select the date the meter became active. This is just the same date that you're going to start entering data for your building. So for example, if you're setting up this Portfolio Manager account for the first time, you'll want to add the starting date as 1/1/2016, and then you'll have your full year calendar data from 2016 you'll enter from that point forward. If you have data that dates back prior that you're entering as well, you'll just have the start date of the meter became active to be whenever you're starting that data entry. Then you're going to want to click that both of those meters are in use, and then select Create Meters. You can have multiple meters in your account, so you want to make sure to select the meters that are associated to include in the metrics for your building. So this is going to give the opportunity to click both your natural gas and your electric meter. If you have old data from previous usage, you could uncheck those boxes and just make sure you're checking the relevant data for this reporting period. Then click the little circle readout button that says these meters account for the total energy consumption for your office, and then click Apply Selections. If you don't do this step, it will look like you have 0 data entered for your building for your account. So you want to make sure that the meters are selected as active. Once you activate the meters, you can start adding your utility data. If you have that information from bills, you'll see the screen here, and you can just start selecting the start and end date of that first bill, and you can just keep clicking add another entry until you have a full 12 months of the calendar year. And these dates need to include January 1st, 2016 through December 31st, 2016. If you are entering information from bills, it's most likely that your bill start and end dates aren't on the 1st and the 31st. And so if it covers a couple month span, or it goes from December 15th, 2015 through January 16th, 2016, you're going to want to enter that extra month of data to make sure that that full January 1st to December 31st range is included, or it will not be complying with the ordinance requiring calendar year 2016 data. You can also upload data from a spreadsheet. You can see the arrow at the bottom. You can download a spreadsheet template, enter it all that information in a spreadsheet, and then upload it into the system as well, instead of clicking add another entry for each month. But really, you'll want to end up with between 12 and 13 entries here on the page. Once you've entered all of your data, you'll see it looks similar to this. You'll see, you know, a month for each of the utility data, and you'll also notice that none of the dates overlap. So, for example, in August 23rd, 2004 to September 22nd, 2004, the next line starts on the 23rd. So there's no overlap in date between the two entries. You want to make sure that that's the case for each one. However, if you are interested in gathering whole use energy data for your building, so you have multiple accounts, multiple tenants in your building, you can collect the summary data without having to go door to door and ask for information. It's a secure way to collect data for your whole building and manage that information without asking for bills or going back to find bills. So we're going to show how to request the whole building directly from the utilities for People's Gas and ComEd. And we already talked about how to enter that from utility bills. If for some reason you can't do either of those things, you can request data from tenants, but only in rare cases when these other sources aren't available. And if all of that doesn't work, you can use default values, but only after making a good faith effort to obtain the actual data. So we're going to talk about the ComEd and People's Gas systems to obtain this whole building energy use data. And if you watched in part one, Amy mentioned that it's important to start this process early so that you can get the data as soon as possible and get it into the system. As you wait later in the season and get closer to June 1st, there's a lot of requests that'll be coming through, and it may take a little bit longer to get that information. So we'll first talk about ComEd's data request process using the EUDS tool, the Energy Usage Data System. It is a way to request whole building data for a portfolio of buildings or just one property. The data retrieval is and reporting is automated and can be exported directly into Portfolio Manager if you set up that process in the future. It's a secure system with secure data transmission. So this is what the system looks like. You go to the link that is posted here below, and this is the page that you'll get. You can see information to request access to the data, fill out an enrollment form, and log in. If you have not had access to the system before, you're going to need to fill out an enrollment form, which could take several business days to process before you're able to request the data about your property. So you'll see this is an example of what the enrollment form looks like. You would just want one person from your property to be able to fill this out, and it needs to be an authorized person for your account and your building. So you can't just fill out this enrollment form for any building you like. You need to make sure that you're the right site contact and account manager, or ask someone at your building to authorize you to do that. So you fill out the form, and then you save it and email it to energyusagedata@comed.com to request that access. Upon enrollment, you will be emailed a username and password. Once you get that username and password, you'll go back to that original screen and click log into your account, and this is the page you'll get. So you enter the username and password that is associated with the email you got from ComEd, and then you log in. Once you log in, if you already have a UDS account or your building addresses have already been added, this is what the building management dashboard screen looks like. If you do not already have a building address in this list, you'll click Add a New Building in the upper right-hand corner, and you can always click the dashboard button over to the left to return back to the dashboard and see everything that's entered. If you're adding a new property, this is the screen, what it looks like to add a property. You will add the building name, so however you want to name it to know which property you're talking about here in the system. You'll enter the street number with no other information, just the number, the street name with no direction or avenue, street, or anything like that, and then the street direction is a drop-down box. And if your building has multiple addresses, this is where you will add making sure that all of the accounts associated with your building are included here in this account. So for example, if your building is on a corner and has a different address entry on 2 different streets, you'll click Save and add a second address and add that as well. If your building has multiple addresses or is a range of street addresses, for example, 100 to 104 North Michigan Avenue, you will enter 100 to 104 North Michigan Avenue as an address, but then also 100 North Michigan, 102 North Michigan, and 104 North Michigan as secondary addresses, just to ensure that any ComEd account associated with any of those addresses in the range will be pulled into this aggregated data. Once you have that list included, it will enter your property into the account, and then it will have a button, a green button that appears that says Verify as the next action. So you're going to want to verify all of the accounts associated with your address. So once you click that, you'll see any of the ComEd accounts associated with that address. So in a multi-tenant building or a multifamily building, you'll see all the unit numbers with different accounts and their name. If you want to export this data to Excel to sort through it and make sure you see all of the things that you're supposed to, you can click Confirm All, that all of those addresses are correct. If you see anything in there that shouldn't be associated with your address or something that's next door or something that's outdated, you can click Deny and then submit the tenant list. Once you finish that portion, you can see that all of the different addresses are here in the screen, and you'll want to create a request. This is creating the data request for that account to pull the 12 months of data for all of those tenants you just confirmed in an aggregated format. So you can click Create a Request, and then you'll put the date range of the information that you're requesting. So for the 2016 calendar year, you'll want to click January 1st, 2016 through December 31st, 2016, and you'll want to pull that data now. You can actually request up to 2 or 3 years in the past for your building. So if you would like past data and have that on hand, you can also go back as many years as it'll allow and pull an aggregated data format up to that original date that's available. So you'll have the 2016 data, but then also potentially all your 2015 and 2014 data as well. But that's just if you're interested. You click Submit, and then you will have to wait a few minutes. It could be up to 30 minutes, it could be an hour, depending on the number of accounts associated with your address. It might take a little bit longer for the system to work and compile all that information. But once it's there, and it's possible you may need to log back out and log back in to see that it's there, you'll see a button that comes up the screen that says View Usage Data. So you click the View Usage Data button once it's available, and then you'll see a really simple list of your aggregated data for your building. So this one, for example, just looked at building data for 2010 in the example on the screen. So it has January through December and the full building data, the full kilowatt hours for the year. So if you think back to the screen where we were entering the data manually, you could then use this full number for January to January 1st to January 31st as your data entry, and then February 1st to February 28th as your data entry, and then add each one as each entry. You can also export this data to Excel, or you can set up the way to submit directly to Energy Star. There is a building an EUDS usage manual that you can find on the ComEd EUDS website that shows you how to do this data sharing. It's on page 28 of this manager user guide. You can also request assistance at energyusagedata@comed.com. But that might be something interesting to do in the future, if not this first time, to have it automatically being submitted into your Portfolio Manager account on a regular basis. So that is the process for ComEd. The next step is looking at People's Gas data if you have gas connected to your building. So People's Gas offers services to help building owners gather whole building data as well. This is a screenshot of what the building data request homepage looks like. And to request the data, you'll need to fill out an information request form, which is highlighted about midway down the page. The link to find that is also listed below. To fill out the enrollment form, you'll fill it out similarly to the ComEd form and also include meter number information. At least one meter number is required, but entering more meter numbers will help ensure the data request is as accurate as possible. So we're going to talk about how to see some of that information about the meters. If you haven't looked at your gas meter before, there's a 7-digit number found on the meters or the bill. You're not going to include those letters or initials before the dash, but just the 7 numbers that follow. Most People's Gas service pipes are only one per building, but some buildings have multiple service pipes, and so you want to make sure that you're getting meter numbers from at least all the pipes that are serving the building. As many meter numbers as you can put in there as possible, the more accurate it will be. If for some reason you have less than 4 gas accounts at your building, you'll need to get customer release forms from each of those 4 tenants in the building. You can submit those forms to the email address here on the screen. That's, again, if you have 4 accounts or less. And that's for data disclosure, making sure that you can't directly link back that information to the tenants about their energy usage. So once you submit your request, after People's Gas is able to process that on their end, they will email you back a PDF of the information for your building. So it looks similar to what you saw for ComEd. You have each month of the year here, and then a full usage quantity for the whole building in CCF as the units. So you'll go back, you can print this off, and then go enter each month, January 1st to January 31st, and then enter that first value. February 1st through February 28th, and enter the second value, and go on until you've covered all of the 2016 calendar year. So if you have questions about either of those, the People's Gas or the ComEd systems and how to request that data, the email addresses were provided on several of those slides, but also you can go to the cityofchicago.org/energy benchmarking website for more information and those direct links, as well as the utilities websites themselves for more information or questions. So once you've entered all of that utility data, you will go back to the Summary tab. And if you scroll a little bit further down, you can click a box that says check for possible data errors. This is a great way to make sure that you haven't missed any dates or any entries, make sure there's not any discrepancies between gross square footage, different places. What you will probably see, however, is that there are some errors that might come up. For example, gross floor area mismatch, as I mentioned earlier, but it also will flag that you have not entered water meter data. That's an alert that you can ignore because water meter data is not required for the City of Chicago ordinance. However, that's something that you can use, but this flag isn't a problem. Once you've done the data quality checker, you've entered all of your information, you've got your building set up, this is when you will need to do the data verification checklist for buildings that need to do data verification this year. Again, as you might have heard in the first session, you have to do that in the first year, and every third year after is a data verification check is required. It should be indicated on your notification letter and email for this year, which is the next year that you need to do this data verification piece. So if you don't have to do this piece, you can skip past this part this year, but otherwise I'll quickly go through what those steps are. On your Portfolio Manager account, on the main tab at the top where you saw you were on My Portfolio, there's also a tab for reporting. You click the reporting tab, and then there's Energy Star performance documents in a checklist or in a drop down. You can see the data verification checklist, which is circled here, is what you want to download. So you'll click data verification checklist for the property that you would like to download that for. You enter the time frame, which is single year, ending December 2016, the primary contacts of the building. If you don't have that listed already, you can click off to the right where you can add contacts and make sure that those are going to the right place, and then generate and download those reports. The report looks something like this. You will have your qualified professional review and sign the data verification checklist. You will keep a copy of that for your reference and for your future records, and to review that report for accuracy. Then this is the key piece of the puzzle. The City of Chicago does not know that you have fulfilled this data verification requirement unless you have the data verifier or yourself enter their information into the property notes section of Portfolio Manager. So you're going to click on the Details tab for your specific building, and there's a section called Property Notes. In that Property Notes field, you will put the person's name, the company, their contact email, and the professional credential or license number that they hold. You'll also put the date that they verified this data in the box. This is a very important step. Then finally, you are ready to submit the data to the city. So as we talked about in the first webinar, there's a 2017 reporting link. Any links you've used in previous years to report will not be valid for this year. There's a different link each year that is custom for that year's report. So click the 2017 reporting link, which you can find on this slide. You can find on the cityofchicago.org/energy benchmarking website. Once you click the link, it'll prompt you to log back into Portfolio Manager. Once you've logged into Portfolio Manager, you will see some screenshots asking you to report the data. If you're reporting it as yourself, or if it's a third party doing this for you, you're reporting it for someone else and you select who that is. You will not be able to change the time frame. It'll be already automatically selected for you as December 2016. And then you want to select the number of properties that you're submitting, whether it's one or several, and you'll generate a response preview. Once you're on this response preview page, you're able to do a few things. You can download the preview in Excel, you can preview the response, and then ultimately you can click Send Response. Once you click Send Response, you're taken to this screen where you can also add other people to a confirmation email to make sure that everyone knows that this was completed. If you don't have people in your contact book already, you can click the blue link below and add people to your contacts. You're going to want to submit the format in Excel, and then click the box and e-sign using your username and password for Portfolio Manager, and then click Send the Data. This is an example of what the automated confirmation looks like. You'll get that and also see all the people that were copied on that response. You want to keep a document of this for your records along with that data verification checklist if required, and on file for the next couple of years. After all of this and after the June 1st deadline, the City of Chicago does create an annual summary report which Amy mentioned in the first webinar, talking about some of the results that have been found over the last 3 years. They look at the reach and participation, trends by sector, opportunities and tips for energy improvements, and so it's a pretty great report if you're able to do that and download it. And then also, the buildings also receive customized energy profiles, which includes a summary of your property's performance, provides a comparison to Chicago buildings of similar size and type, some potential cost-saving measures that you could choose to pursue, and then opportunities for increasing energy efficiency in your property type. So buildings that reported in the past few years, those energy profiles actually just were emailed out, I believe, the last week of February in 2017 for the 2016 data, or 2015 data. There is additional learning. You can learn more about how to use Portfolio Manager or go back for some more details on steps that I went through today at EnergyStar.gov/buildingshelp. There's also some more resources on EnergyStar.gov, including some short training videos, some worksheets that you can download in advance about different property types, so you can see which types of data are going to be collected before you get into Portfolio Manager. And then you can find more information and resources at the cityofchicago.org/energy benchmarking. Here are again some support links to ComEd and Peoples Gas for their aggregated data systems. There's also a listing of benchmarking and verification companies that provide that service and have qualified professionals, and that energy service database is linked here on the USGBC Illinois website. If your company would like to get added to that listing, or you individually have a credential that qualifies you to be added to the listing, there's also a survey on that web link that you can fill out and get added. For buildings in need, they can apply for pro bono verification services by completing an application on the City of Chicago's website. And then there are some direct links to ComEd's Peoples Gas programs for both commercial, multifamily, and other building types linked below. If you have any questions, you're more than welcome to reach out to me, Katie Kaluzny, at usgbcillinois.org, or Amy Jewell at imt.org, or call the Energy Benchmarking Help Center at 855-858-6878 or info@chicagoenergybenchmarking.org. These trainings were provided, again, by the Chicago Energy Benchmarking Working Group, by all of the great organizations below, working to make this ordinance implementation successful and help people along the way. Thanks so much for checking out the webinar, and we hope you have a great day and a successful 2016 benchmarking. Thank you.